Welcome to the In a Nutshell podcast with myself, Andrew Miles Davis, and my co-host Chris Branch. The daily 10-minute podcast where we take out all of the techie talk around generative AI and focus on what the everyday person, content creator, and marketer wants to hear. Now, we've only got 10 minutes, so we can only focus on one subject. And today is going to be quite difficult to get this down to 10 minutes because we have been sitting around just kind of waiting to see what's going to be happening when it comes to OpenAI. Now, when it comes to OpenAI, usually we're talking about what's going on the platform, so ChatGPT or DALL-E 3. But today, we're going to be talking about what's happening off the platform, which is really to do with the leadership change. And I'm sure a lot of you who's listening or watching has heard about what's going on. And things are changing almost every day or every hour. So what we say now might be outdated if you're listening to it tomorrow or a couple of days after. So we're going to talk about it generally when it comes to these organizations. So, Chris, do you want to explain to everyone kind of like what's been happening with OpenAI over the last few days?
Well, the weekend just gone might go down in a Netflix series in the upcoming future because it was like an EastEnder episode, how dramatic it was. Every single few hours, it seems, there was a new piece of information come out, and still to this moment when we're recording this, there's no actual reason as to why Sam got the firing in the first place. And
sure. So hold on, before we continue, just for everyone, if you don't know, Sam... what's his name? Sam
Altman.
Sam Altman. That's it. Yeah. He was the CEO and I think one of the co-founders of OpenAI.
Yeah.
And over the weekend or just before the weekend, the board fired him. So I'll leave it at that. You continue from there.
It's a really complex situation because their business model is actually based on a not-for-profit. And having looked at, and it is just hearsay at this point, you know, there's so many reasons as to why that he could have been fired and this happened so quickly, but it happened in this case of a 15-minute Google Meet meeting, which I thought was hilarious. You know, all of a sudden you're just told, oh, you've got to meet with the board, and then you get told 15 minutes later you're fired, and then there's no reasoning for it that comes out publicly. And this is supposed to be the number one company in the world right now, you know, in terms of growth anyway. Like they're not obviously the biggest company in the world, but 1 billion users for ChatGPT was unprecedented levels. 1 million users in 5 days they managed to get this software, so unbelievable growth.
100 million.
Oh yeah, sorry, 100 million. Yeah. A little bit different, 1 million, 100 million. But yeah, it was just so crazy seeing all the updates. And it looks like from the latest news that we have, like, and as I say, this is going to be very dated. So if you're watching this in the future, it might not be at all true anymore. But Sam Altman has been hired by Microsoft, and so has Greg Brockman, who was another founder who was sitting on the board, who actually resigned when Sam got fired, basically. He handed in his notice. And as we speak, nearly every single OpenAI employee has basically told the board that they need to resign. Otherwise, they also might go and work for Microsoft. So Microsoft must be just chomping at the bit listening to this news, like getting all this talent potentially coming into their in-house divisions. But yeah, it's been just a really hairy situation for everyone involved. Microsoft lost a lot of shares, profits, and then now it's gained back up again, but it's still like all over the place because it's like childhood's, you know, school behavior on the playground, basically.
Yeah, it's definitely been quite eventful. And I think this is the first week in what we've seen when it comes to generative AI that there's more stuff going on offline than there is online. And it's, as you mentioned, it feels like a Netflix series that could potentially come out of this. I actually thought that because what happened was that he got fired and it went, obviously the internet went nuts. But then about 48 hours later, they were talking about him coming back. So then it was like all these memes that are coming out. You've probably seen all the memes before for other things, but that was happening. And then out of the blue, Microsoft hired him. And it was like, wow, where's that? What happened there? So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few more bombshells that's happening. But, and here's the real thing that we were discussing. What does that mean for OpenAI itself as an organization? You know, We talk about, and we've spoken many times about the big boys, i.e., Amazon, Facebook, Google, Microsoft itself, getting in, Apple getting involved in this AI, and obviously to make it relevant to us, the generative AI space.
Mhm.
And as soon as they make an update, as soon as they make a play, and they've only been making relatively small plays at the moment, it's been taking
Mhm.
out hundreds of startups. OpenAI is still very new compared to other the big boys, but obviously they've done really well. But is this the thing that is really going to affect them? And in 6 months' time, once Google, once Microsoft, because now that they've got the team who's pretty much created OpenAI, or potentially have that team, Apple, because they're quite quiet at the moment and they're going to drop something big. I wouldn't be surprised in the next year or 6 months. Samsung, once they make their play, is OpenAI and ChatGPT and DALL-E 3, where you can do that on any of them. Well, you can do obviously what you can do on ChatGPT and DALL-E 3, you can do it on pretty much all of them. But now their marketing and communication gets better. What does that mean for OpenAI? And I think that's going to be interesting. I know firsthand what it's like working for a company that was the biggest digital company or website in the world and gone
Yeah.
within a few months. And that was MySpace. You know, I was there from the beginning, pretty much. Beginning in the UK. And that was, I saw the growth. You know, I've seen it go from 20, 30 million profiles to 250 million, the biggest website in the world. And I saw the fall. You know, I got out halfway kind of on the fall. But I know it can happen. I've seen it happen firsthand. So is this something that potentially can happen to OpenAI? What do you
Yeah.
reckon? You think it could?
Yeah, I think there's, like, as you said, so many different paths forward right now. It looks like for the time being, they've even got rid of their new interim CEO, who was Mira, the chief technical officer, and they've now appointed a new CEO, which is the co-founder of Twitch, which is an
Yeah.
online streaming platform that's done well, but obviously not reached the levels that it could have done. And he's also been quite skeptical of Microsoft, I've been reading in the past. So it's a weird mix, you know, where
Short
people are
memory.
being thrown in, and he's coming in saying, I'm going to do a complete audit of everything that happened because it was a disgrace. What happened to Sam can never happen again, you know. So I think at the very least, there's going to be big mix-ups in OpenAI. You know, there was too much division between the research and the product team. And that's where the most tension seems to have come from, because the researchers really want to keep AI, you know, under wraps and don't want humans to have to get too much involved with it because it's potentially dangerous. And the product team are being told, we need to make more money very quickly in order to fund the research. And so they're being told, get stuff out as quickly as possible. You know, don't do the safety checks and stuff. Just get it out there. That's why the GPT store came so thick and fast, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's why it's going to have such harsh repercussions in the long run, is that monetization versus not-for-profit is a very difficult mix.
Very.
So
Mm.
hard business model to work with. And where the board goes from here, whether they resign or whether all the employees resign, like, one of the things is going to make OpenAI change. And I can't see neither of those things happening. So one of those things will definitely happen. Either the board fully resigns and the employees stay with a new board, or the employees all move to Microsoft, and then OpenAI is what now? You know, what is it
Yeah.
without its employees? It's just a bunch of researchers. So I don't think it's a particular company. Then it will become a research company again, and then not have products. So tough to know.
It is tough to know, and it's typical what happens in the growth stage of organizations, especially once they grow at such a rapid rate. It's it's almost like you're on one island and you need to get to the other island, and it's all fun on the first island that you go on, but once you hit the ocean, will you make it to the other side? And if you make it to the other side, you can be one of those unicorn like platforms like Facebook or an Instagram or a WhatsApp or a LinkedIn, whatever it may be. But many organizations get stuck in the ocean, and OpenAI could be one of them.
Yeah, definitely. It was a hard business model from the beginning, and the mighty may fall. You know, like, that's another takeaway that I've seen in all of this, is that giants, however giant they get, however much they seem to dominate the space, one or two internal issues can completely combust something like that. So be very careful when you're planning your business model in this space.